Welcome to the Safe Money Retirement Show with certified financial fiduciary Tim Wood.
Let's sit down and make an actual plan, and we have definitely got to factor in that retirement danger zone. I wish to God someone had sat down and done that with my dad. We wish we would have known about these things.
Tim is a retirement and income planning expert, best-selling author, and the founder of SafeMoneyRetirement.com. Tim focuses on wealth management, retirement income, tax and long-term care planning, and so much more.
Today is your opportunity to build the tomorrow you want. You've got an 87% chance of success. Well, son, that's a 13% chance of failure.
And now, the Safe Money Retirement Show with Tim Wood.
Welcome in to this week's edition of the Safe Money Retirement Show. Alongside Tim Wood, he's the founder, president, and of course, certified financial fiduciary with Safe Money Retirement. My name's Kevin McAlpin. Tim and I are happy to have you with us on the show, and we got a lot to get to. But first things first, we say hello to the star of the show, the man of the hour, my good buddy, Tim Wood. Tim, a pleasure as always. My friend, how are you today?
It's good to talk to you, man. I'm doing well. I hope everyone listening's doing well and is enjoying these dog days of summer.
Maybe about a month and a half more of this hot, oppressive weather. Cooler temperatures are on the way. Fall is coming. And it's a quick reminder, Tim, as well, how fast this calendar year is going. So if you are at or near retirement and you have not sat down with Tim Wood and the team at Safe Money Retirement, I'm going to give you the website. We're going to give you his phone number here in just a little while as well. But the fastest, easiest way to reach Tim is by visiting SafeMoneyRetirement.com. Again, SafeMoneyRetirement.com. I found a headline that a lot of our listeners are probably going to really enjoy hearing. This is from USA Today recently, and they said, and I quote, "Maybe you don't need $1 million to retire after all." The article goes on to say that 97% of Americans have less than $1 million saved. Yet 82% of retirees say they have enough money and are happy in retirement. So, Tim Wood, does this officially retire the magic number of you need to have fill in the blank saved for your retirement?
I sure hope it does, because you and I have had, we discuss this quite often. There is no magic number, right, because it's totally different based on your situation. Again, that's why we sit down with everyone individually. I have people all the time call and say, I just want rates. Well, I don't know what kind of plan you want. I can't just give you rates. Mm-hmm. We've got to sit down and figure out what you need in order to see if I even need to give you rates. You know what I mean? Right. So, yeah, I sure hope it does, man. I hope it can finally put that aside, because it's not about the number. It's about what you need. And do we need to put more with what you've put together in order to accomplish that? Or do you already have that? Sometimes someone can do it for 100, 200, 300,000. Sometimes people do need $1 million. Sometimes they need more than that. Mm-hmm. It just depends on what your needs are and what you're trying to accomplish. I mean, y'all hear me talk about that almost every single week, that transition from the growth mindset, the acquisition mindset, to the distribution mindset. You know, our whole lives we've been growing, and it's hard to change from that to, okay, now I'm going to use it, because those are totally different plans. Mm-hmm. That totally different plans. I mean, once you get into retirement, or right before you get into retirement, once you're into that retirement mindset, totally different type of a thing. Now, why is that? And why is it the fact that it's not the same number for everyone? And how do we kind of judge what we need to do? Well, there's a few things we have to look at. Number one, your spending could change in retirement. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that we look at in a fact finder. Now, does it for everybody? Absolutely not. And I've got more and more clients these days. Actually, their spending in retirement, it's going up. Mm-hmm. It's not going down. Yeah. Because they've always wanted to join the country club, go to France, do whatever the heck it is they want to do. Well, this is when you do it. Y'all have heard me talk about before. One of the things that one of my mentors, Tom Hegna, talks about is the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years. Mm-hmm. In those go-go years, you may spend more than you did while you were working, because now every day is Saturday. Imagine if every day your buddies called you and wanted to play golf. Imagine what your bill would be at the end of a month.
Yeah. Sizable.
Those of us that play golf. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or, go to the spa, or on a beach trip or whatever. I mean, when you can do it, whatever you want. So anyway, your spending will change in retirement, and we need to plan that out. For the first few years, and then maybe those middle years, the slow go years, and then maybe it goes back up at the end because of healthcare. Mm-hmm. So let's plan that out. Also, savings are only one piece of the puzzle. There's a lot of the different things that we need to look at, and how much you've saved, literally, that's the starting point.
Right.
That's the starting line. We need to figure out then, number one, again, the first thing we got to look at is income. We got to make sure you've got enough guaranteed income that's going to last you the rest of your life, no matter what. That is step one. That's what we've got to do first. And then after that, there's some other things that we'll talk about. But having those savings, that's literally just the fuel for the fire. We got to figure out how we want the fire to burn to make sure we get you where you want to go. And like I said, retirement isn't a fits all thing. It's going to be totally different for everyone. It's going to be totally different for Kevin than it is for me. Going to be different for you. That's why we need to sit down and do an individual plan with each client and make sure that the plan is right for you. And really, the goal of all of this is sustainability. It's making sure that you've got enough income. It's making sure that what you want to be passed along when you're gone is. It's making sure, y'all know, over 70% of people over 65 are going to need long-term care at some point. Yeah. And if y'all want to really freak yourself out, look up how much long-term care is right now in your state. Yeah, I've got the app on my iPhone, or you can look it up online. Look up what the average long-term care is in your state, and then do some math and figure out, well, if I was in long-term care for a year and a half, do that monthly amount times 18 and see what that would be. We need to make a plan. How are we going to cover that? What are we going to do? So there's a lot of those things that you need to look at as a holistic plan, but make sure it's a sustainable plan. Make sure you can get all the way from here to there with no hiccups, no issues, and try to do it as safely as you can.
So for someone listening today, they're encouraged. They hear that headline of maybe you don't need $1 million to retire after all. Is there sort of that fine line, though, between, optimism and maybe a little bit of complacency at the same time, where someone is still in their working years? Maybe they're not saving as much when they read a headline like that.
It could, maybe. I don't know. And again, the good thing is we're starting to reach more and more people, especially with the podcast version of this show that we do. We're reaching more and more of the younger audience with that podcast, and we're getting people that are coming to us now in their 30s and in their 40s, and you start planning then. You put money in your 40s into a plan that's got a guaranteed roll-up for 20 years. Can you imagine where that's going to be with true compounded interest 20 years from now? And you don't have to worry about it, and there's no fees, and there's no chances of losses and whatever. It's brilliant. Yeah. There's another thing real quick. I'll mention this. Y'all have heard me talk about the RISA. The Retirement Income Style Awareness Assessment. It's on my website. You can go to safemoneyrisa.com, or you can just go to safemoneyretirement.com and click on the RISA tab. Either way, it's going to take you to the same place. Totally free. It's going to take you 5 or 10 minutes. It's going to send you and my office an 11-page summary based on the answers you give to a set of questions. What's going to make you happiest in retirement? And I always tell a couple, I want the husband and wife to do it totally separately and not even talk to each other. Because I want to know what Lisa thinks, and I want to know what Jim thinks. And chances are they're going to be totally different, and we need to make sure we're addressing both of them, because either Lisa or Jim are going to die first. And if Jim dies first, I don't want Lisa to be upset because we did everything the way Jim wanted, and vice versa. So that's another thing that we have to look at, is not only the plans, but what's going to work for you. What kind of plan is going to make you the happiest? So that's part of this whole puzzle.
So let's start building your retirement plan today with no cost and no obligation to one call to Tim Wood and the team at Safe Money Retirement. 800-913-SAFE. That's 800-913-7233. Online anytime at safemoneyretirement.com. That's safemoneyretirement.com. And this is the part of the show, Tim, we have a lot of fun. We interact with our listeners. We answer your listener-submitted questions of the week. And if you'd like to get involved, the email address is info@safemoneyretirement.com. And it kind of ties into what we're talking about when it comes to having a written income plan, Tim. We talk all the time about streams of guaranteed income, but let's talk about why an annuity might not be right for somebody listening to the show here today. Because again, going back to your point, everybody's situation is completely unique.
Yeah. And that what Kevin is saying, we got an email that basically was saying, I hear what you're saying every single week, and this all sounds great, but what are your reasons for not getting one? Because I'm not going to plug their name, but there are talking heads out there that say you don't want an annuity. The last thing you want is an annuity. Annuity is a bad word. Don't get the A word. I mean, you hear all that garbage. There are some reasons. I mean, you hear Kevin and I talk about all the positives all the time. So, yeah, let's talk about this for a minute. What are some reasons that you would not want an annuity? Well, the number one thing is liquidity. If you need liquidity and you need all of that money to be liquid, an annuity probably isn't right for you. And I have people all the time. I just had a client a couple of days ago, Kevin, that said, I want to do something with you. This looks fantastic. I need the guaranteed income. Now, I am going to be buying another rental property, and I'm going to need a whole chunk of money to put down. And it was the money he wanted to do in an annuity. No, then you don't want to do the annuity. Once you're done with that property, whatever you've got left or whatever, then we can talk about it. So that's one really big reason you don't want an annuity is if you want liquidity, and I would say realistically within 3 years, then there's no type of annuity you're going to want. If you want something super short term, bro, just go to get a CD. Just do something at the bank, do something at the credit union, whatever. If you've got at least 3 years, then it might make sense. And these income plans you hear Kevin and I talk about, those are lifetime. Those aren't meant to ever take anything out other than the income payments you're going to get. So liquidity is one really big reason. Another reason an annuity might not be right is if someone really, this is going to sound weird and it doesn't make sense, but there are people out there that like the risk. There are people out there that live on that adrenaline. I could hit it rich on that penny stock, man. It could be the next Amazon. You know what I'm saying? And it could blow. And you're right. It could. With all the AI and all the garbage, there's some stock out there right now that you can probably buy for about $1 that 5 years from now is going to be $100. Does that stock exist? Yeah, I don't know what it is. I wish I did.
Right, me too.
But there are a lot of people out there. And again, one of the things we'll find out when you do that RISA survey, one of the things that it could come back is that you love that. If you do, that you don't want to be in an annuity because annuities, yes, the ones that I'm talking about that are for growth, yes, it totally gets rid of your bottom end, but it's going to cap how much you can make on the top end on a lot of the different indexes. And it's more index driven. It's not individual stock driven. So there are just some people that it's just not a good fit for what they're wanting to do. Does that make sense? You understand where I'm going with that?
Absolutely.
Another reason in some cases that I've seen is someone has already got plenty of income. Yeah. Every once in a while I had a client that literally his wife had 2 pensions. He had retired from some government job, so he got a pension from that. Plus they both got Social Security. Between the two of them, I'm not kidding, they had like $130,000 in income guaranteed for the rest of their life.
Wow.
Well, you don't need an income plan. Right. And he was also a dude that really liked playing the market. After I looked at everything, I'm like, man, I'd love to do something for you. Really, the only thing I can tell you is if there's a certain amount that you want to make sure that you never lose, no matter what happens in the market, we could throw that into a growth plan. So, no matter what happens, you're always going to have, 250 or whatever that number is. But other than that, it just doesn't make sense. Let's wrap this up by saying, when you talk to me, I'm not always going to recommend an annuity. When you talk to me, I'm not even always going to recommend you work with me. I'm that unicorn in this industry that there are, I'd say 5%, 10% of the time I meet with someone and I say, you know what? We're not a good fit. I like you, you like me, that's great. Here's what I'm going to ask. If you know anyone, you go to church with anyone, you got family that needs what I'm doing, but it's not for you. You don't need it. So what we need to do is we need to sit down and take an honest look at where you are and what's going on and see if one of these plans could be right for you. But yeah, there are several reasons why an annuity might not be right for you.
It all starts with one phone call to Tim Wood and his team at Safe Money Retirement. And if you'd like to get on his calendar, folks, with no cost and no obligation whatsoever, 800-913-SAFE. Again, 800-913-7233. Online at safemoneyretirement.com. Again, that's safemoneyretirement.com. All right, we'll give you a couple of minutes to make that call. Get on Tim's calendar, and we'll continue with much more of the Safe Money Retirement Show right after this.
Hey, it's Glenn Beck. Do you still have all of your retirement money at risk in the market? Most know that I don't do that. It's way too dangerous, in my opinion, at least. The fact the market could fall off a cliff tomorrow, yet many don't have an expert you can trust. Let me tell you about Tim Wood. Now, he's the owner of Safe Money Retirement. That's a certified financial fiduciary and a best-selling author. I met Tim personally, and I can tell you that he and his team can help you plan your own guaranteed lifetime income streams to cover you and your spouse and grow your money while protecting it from a market crash. Go to safemoneyretirement.com/Beck or call 800-913-SAFE to schedule a no-obligation free 15-minute discovery call with Tim. You know I just don't trust anyone, and so do your own homework with Tim at safemoneyretirement.com/Beck and book your free discovery call with Tim online or call 800-913-SAFE and get started today.
It is the Safe Money Retirement Show, and we are happy to have you with us. Alongside Tim Wood, you hear him on the show every week. Of course, he's the founder, president, and certified financial fiduciary with Safe Money Retirement. My name's Kevin McAlpin. Tim and I are so happy you've dialed us up once again on the show, and we hope you're having a fantastic day. So, Tim, I think it's probably not a stretch to say a lot of our listeners feeling the pinch lately of higher gas prices. And it's not just on the fill up. When energy gets more expensive, it shows up everywhere too. And of course, that feeds inflation as well. Now, for those listening, if you need even more of an explanation, let's play this piece of sound for you from Billy Bob Thornton's character on the Paramount Plus TV show Landman.
You want oil to live above 60 but below 90. And don't get me wrong, we're still printing money at 90, but gas gets up over $3.50 a gallon, it starts to pinch. It hits 100, every product in America has to readjust its price. $78 a barrel, that's about perfect. It brings enough profit to keep exploring, but it don't sting as much at the pump. Unless, of course, you're in California. I mean, they tax the out of it out there.
Well, you ever see the prices of gas out in California?
The prices of everything in California. That's what I'm laughing. I've got clients that, and most of the clients I know from California are moving from California.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people doing that, aren't there?
Yep. Yeah, I can't blame them.
Yeah, can't either. So let's talk about that. When prices do go up, obviously inflation is one of the big risks for a lot of those folks listening to the show here today when you get into retirement. So talk to our listeners a little bit about the process of really designing that income plan so it can stretch, feature that flexibility, if you will, and not force folks into bigger withdrawals or maybe even worse, some bad timing decisions.
Yeah, 100%. So we don't know, and I don't see prices really going down. No. I don't see prices going back to where they were. Even if inflation were to slow down, I don't see negative inflation happening. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I don't see the price of a gallon of grape juice that used to be $3 is now $6.50. Yeah. Even if inflation slows down, I don't see that grape juice going back to $3. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? It's staying at $6.50. So what do we do, and then what are we going to do the next time inflation hits? So here's how we basically do an income plan that gives you that flexibility. And it's kind of a multi-step approach. And again, different for every single person. So don't quote me on this. It's going to be different for everyone. The first thing we do is what I call your gap plan. And that's your big plan. So we figure out what are your expenses. We figure out how much do you need for what I call your floor. That's how much you absolutely have to have. That doesn't include fixing the back porch. That doesn't include going on vacation to Pennsylvania. That doesn't include any of this stuff. That's just how much do you need to survive. Well, that's your floor. Well, we got to make sure between your social and if you are lucky enough to have pensions or have any of these kind of things, how much do you have coming in? Guaranteed income. I'm not talking about income you're just withdrawing from an account. We're talking guaranteed income, and see if there's a gap there. If there is, that's step number one. We need to close that gap, and we need to do that with a guaranteed lifetime income plan. So that's step one. Then we also look at, okay, this is how much you need for your floor. How much do you want your income to be? And when do you want that income to be there? And we do some calculations and figure out, does it need to start right now? Does it need to start 5 years from now? Does it need to start 15 years from now? Get you to that number you want to be at. Now, the long-term question, how do we do that? We do that with plans. Again, if y'all have read my book, if you haven't, get a copy of it, Safe Money Retirement, Your Game Plan for Success. I talk about these in the book. I call them inflation buster plans. Now, that's just my terminology. Basically what it is, it's another income plan, but it's small. The gap plan, we may be dropping 100, 200, 300, 1.3 million. We may be dropping a ton in there to get you the guaranteed income you need so you're there. These plans, these inflation buster plans are smaller. I normally do $50,000 plans, and I've got one client recently that did 7 of them. Well, why would he do that instead of just dropping the whole $350 in one plan? Why would he do 7 $50,000 plans? Here's why. If you got 7 of those little plans, if you ever need a little bit more income, you can turn one on, but the other 6 are still growing, people. And then a few years later, you need a little bit more income because now that grape juice is $8 a gallon. I need a little bit more income. You can turn another one on, but the other 5 are still growing, people. That's what we do with these things, those small little inflation buster plans. And the great thing is, if you don't ever turn those on in your lifetime and you wind up dying and never using it, every penny in it goes to whoever you've named as your beneficiary. So it gives you the ability. So that's what we do as far as income. Now, on top of that, again, it's different for everyone. There's so many different layers. It's really hard to answer these questions because it's so general and it's going to be so different for everybody. But another thing we do is we've got the growth plans. And whether it's a growth plan that's just on a fixed amount or whether it's one of the growth plans that are one of the index plans y'all hear me talk about where you can choose a different index and your money grows based on that, a lot of those will allow you to either withdraw the interest you made or some of them would let you withdraw up to 10% per year. So that's another option if you don't want to do those inflation buster plans, or some of my better clients actually have done all of them. They've got the GAP plan, they've got the inflation buster plans, and they've got these growth plans that you could just, like, say you don't need more guaranteed income. Let's just say it's a few years after you retire and you need a roof. Okay, well, we need 15 grand because the storm came through and we need a new roof. Okay, well, whatever. You can just pull 15 grand out of one of these growth plans. And it's just a one-time thing. You don't need the ongoing income. You just need a one-time thing. There's a multi-pronged approach, but there are ways to do it, and there are ways to do it smartly. And again, I hate to keep beating a dead horse every single week, but it's different for everyone, and it's a matter of sitting down and figuring out what's going to be best for you.
And that's where it all starts, with one phone call. When you reach out to Tim Wood, the president and the founder, and of course, certified financial fiduciary with Safe Money Retirement, he's going to sit down, really get to know your individual goals in retirement. Right? Remember, folks, it's not a paint by numbers. It's not a one size fits all situation. And if you'd like to learn more about where you are on the road to retirement, keep this phone number handy. 800-913-SAFE. That's 800-913-7233, or online anytime at safemoneyretirement.com. That's safemoneyretirement.com. So, Tim, I know we've talked about this on the show before, but the numbers, they are what they are. As we age, about 70% of us are going to need some type of long-term care at some point. The challenge becomes our healthcare system isn't exactly ready for what some are referring to as the silver tsunami. There's just not enough nurses, not enough beds, and of course, we know when things are in short supply, prices tend to go up. So talk to our listeners a little bit about what you're seeing about long-term care, not only here in the area, but more importantly, how to plan for those unknown costs when you put these financial plans together for our listeners.
A couple weeks ago, my listeners will remember me saying I was in Dallas for a conference, and one of the ladies I spoke to at that conference, her whole business is long-term care.
Okay.
And we specifically talked about that term, the silver tsunami. There's going to be a challenge from the consumer side because of the price of the expense. I mean, it's going to be stupid expensive and it's going to keep going up. And one of the notes I've got here is it actually shows long-term care cost increased across every type of care in the most recent thing. And it's actually going way faster than inflation is. So that's one whole thing, right? The cost of it is one whole thing. But that wasn't even her main thing. Her main thing is kind of what you said. There's not going to be beds. I don't remember the exact numbers, and this isn't going to be correct, but they're estimating, and it was something crazy. Again, this probably isn't correct, but y'all will get the point. Something like 3 million people needing that in 10 years, and there only being 300,000 beds.
Oof.
Now, again, those numbers probably aren't right, so don't quote me, but it was something that and I had that same response. I was like, oh my goodness, well, what are we going to do? And she said, I don't know. That's the problem. That's what we're trying to figure out. is what the heck are we going to do? Because, I mean, there's the whole financial aspect, but the other part of this that's even almost more concerning than the financial aspect is we don't have the beds, we don't have the nurses, we don't have the facilities. We're going to have to really invest and get really good at home care. Mm-hmm. We're not going to have a choice. All of the different types of care, all of those, the prices are trending higher. So let's just get that out there right now. All of the different kinds of care, if you look at where they're going, and they're rising way, way, way faster than inflation. And unfortunately, you know, Kevin, this problem isn't going away.
All right.
Even if somehow someone could magically make the costs stop going up, we still don't have nurses. We still don't have the beds. We still don't have the facilities. We're still running into, 10, 15, 20 years from now, a massive problem. You know what I mean? I mean, it's going to be that big of a problem coming. That would be what I would say. I mean, the costs are one thing, and they're definitely something that you need to look at and we need to make a plan for. And I do with clients every single day. We make a plan for it. But it's bigger than that. And you need to make sure that your plan is flexible. A lot of the plans that I do allow you to use that benefit in a facility or at home. That's a big thing because a lot of people don't want to have to go to a facility. They want to have that ability if they want to just have a nurse come in, because you may only need 1 hour a day, right? I mean, that's where my dad was. When, we lost a lot. Most of y'all know we lost my dad earlier this year. For the last 6 to 8 months or so, he had a nurse coming in twice a week, I think it was, working with him and, doing all kinds of stuff. But she was only there for like an hour each time. And then she'd go somewhere else. Well, that's great. I mean, look at a week. That one nurse could probably see, 30, 40, 50 clients just doing an hour here and there. So that's probably where we're going to have to go. I mean, it is what it is.
And again, it all starts with one phone call. We're going to give you that number in just a moment. But here's what we'll do, folks. For our first 5 callers from today's show, Tim's going to offer up a complimentary portfolio analysis. He'll do a deep dive. He'll really get to understand where you are on the road to retirement. And he's also going to throw in a complimentary copy of his book. It's called Safe Money Retirement, Your Game Plan for Success, as he's modeling it here right for me in the studio. So don't delay. Get on his calendar again with no cost and no obligation right now. 800-913-SAFE. Again, that number is 800-913-7233. You've spent decades building your retirement. It only takes one health emergency to put that entire plan in jeopardy. So call today or visit safemoneyretirement.com. Well, listen, on that note, what do you say I leave the floor all yours for the final word, shall we?
Great show. I hope everyone enjoyed the show this week. We're running short on time, so I'm going to wrap this up really quick. Listen, we talked about some really important stuff. We ended the show talking about long-term care. Hey, guess what? You need a plan. We started the show talking about a certain amount of money and coming down to, talking about income plans. Hey, guess what? You need a plan. But let's talk about those gas prices. Y'all remember a minute ago we listened to that Landman clip? Let's talk about that for just one more second, because that is so important. We could make a plan. You could make a plan right now for what you need, but is that plan going to work for you 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, with medical advances, maybe 40 or 50 years from now? Are you still going to be okay? We need to make a plan, and we need to make sure it's long term. That's how you're going to have your own safe money retirement.
The preceding information does not represent tax, legal, or investment advice. Obviously, by contacting us now, you are only taking the first step towards protecting your retirement. No information presented today should be acted upon without meeting with a qualified, licensed insurance professional. It is important that you read all insurance contract disclosures carefully before making a purchase decision. Interest and other guarantees in annuity contracts are subject to the claims-paying ability of the insurance carrier that issued the contract. The tax consequences of annuity income should be considered with the help of a licensed tax professional. Rates and returns mentioned on this program may vary based on state availability and are subject to change without notice.